Welcome back to the channel everyone. Whilst we wait for some more releases from Phoenix, we're going to take this opportunity to start a new series of videos. Something to help you pick through all that technical jargon, cut through those marketing myths, and do some maintenance as well to keep your torch in top order. So in our first video, we're going to be looking at ANSI and what it is exactly. ANSI FL1 standard is something you might see on the back of most reputable torch brands. The American National Standards Institute, or ANSI, back in 2009 decided they need to standardise testing on flashlights. When one company might say this torch has a power of 1,000,000 candles, and this one here has so much lux, and that has so much lumen, it can be quite difficult to tell what you're going to get, or compare the two. In order to give accurate comparable data between lights, the ANSI set up a few tests to give that data. They test on the following items: light output, peak beam intensity, beam distance, runtime, water resistance, and finally impact resistance. So let's start with light output. The unit of measurement they use to measure light is the lumen. For ANSI, this is essentially how much light this unit is giving out. Some lights may give out 1 lumen, where other lights may give out 18,000 lumens. But how we use the light, that's what's important. Which moves us on to peak beam intensity. This gives us an indicator of how bright a light is at its hotspot. My simple example, we're comparing an E35B3 with a PD25R. One can output 3000 lumens and the other only 800 lumens. But if we compare these two lights on their 150 lumen setting, we can see how bright their intensity is. The test for this is either carried out over 2 meters, 10 meters, or 30 meters, depending on how big the light is. This is measured in candela, and as you can see, the PD25R has an intensity of 2860 candela, where the E35B3 comes up short with only 625 candela. This is all down to how the light is used. Thanks to the deeper reflector on the PD25R, it can take those lumens and concentrate them into a smaller area, giving you a brighter hotspot. You're still getting 150 lumens, but this one is more floody and will light up a larger area, where this one is more concentrated, which will punch out further. Depending on what your light you're looking for, do have a look at that. Next is beam distance. This describes how far the beam reaches. For this, ANSI states that the distance is reached when the light is shone across a distance and it fades down to 0.5 lux. Lux is just another measurement of light, and is taken when you shine 1 lumen across 1 meter squared. This is the equivalent to the light of a full moon on a clear night, or thereabouts. For this reason, we will often say take the beam distance with a pinch of salt, and we quote that 75% is probably the working distance. Of course, other factors like fog will lessen that distance. Next, we'll look at runtime. This is one we always have to explain to people. So how ANSI run their runtime test is firstly, they've got to check if the light will hold its output. This is tested in the first 30 seconds. After these first 30 seconds, stopwatch begins. The total runtime is recorded when the light reaches 10% of its initial output. So if a 1000 lumen torch, it finally reaches down to 100 lumens. But the journey from 100 to 10% can take many paths. Let's look at these. So heat will be our first factor. LEDs generate heat. Not as much as say a light bulb, but at high outputs they will get pretty warm. For the torch to have a long service life, most lights will have thermal regulation built in. This is to protect the torch so it doesn't get damaged. On powerful torches with high outputs, you should expect the light to drop down in level. This is so it can cool down. Once cooled, some torches may return to their higher outputs, where others will stay at a lower level until their quoted runtimes. If the unit is cooled down and it allows you to do so, you can put it back up to those higher levels. But no, it won't give you the same runtimes as stated, because you have manually adjusted the output. Next we move on to the battery. Lithium batteries are the most commonly used batteries in high-powered torches these days. They give a lot of energy in a small package. But we need to treat these, say, like a runner. A fully fueled runner will be at their best at the start of the race, and will be able to run very fast. Similarly with the light, as it can give the most output. The runner will soon realise that he can't keep this pace and slow down. Same with the battery, and after that initial period, the battery voltage is reduced to a lower level. For the brightest output levels, that might not be enough to power them. The battery can carry on at the steady pace towards the end of its capacity, when it will then steadily drop off. By this point, the torch will stop being usable and you'll probably see the emergency modes come into use. Depending on what torch you have, what battery you have and its condition, you might get different results. Linked in with the LED heat, the ambient temperature around you will also affect the battery's performance. The cold will severely affect the capacity of lithium cells, affecting them up to 1/3 in some conditions, but even more in even colder ones. Unibody lights do really well in cold temperatures, because the LED heat can sink into the body and keep the whole unit warmer. Lights with a separate battery box might need some support in colder conditions. If it's on the back of your head, use a hood or a hat to keep it a bit warmer. Or if you can remove it, put it in a jacket pocket but keep it close to your body to use your body heat to keep it warm. And finally, built-in settings. Some torches, like our very popular HM65R, have pre-programmed functions to give them extended runtimes. In this instance, it gradually dims down over time, running at those lower light levels and considerably extending the runtime. Whether that is useful, well, that's up to you and how you use your light. Some companies do use this as a bit of a marketing ploy, by saying a light has a really high output and can last a really long time as well. Say it's a 10,000 lumen torch, and it lasts about 30 seconds to be tested. It only needs to be 10% of that output at the end. It can drop down to say 30% after 2 minutes, and then run at that low runtime until its 10% was reached. It will be reported as a 10,000 lumen torch with say a 12-hour runtime on that setting, but in fact you're only getting that 10,000 lumens for 2 minutes. This is why Fenix publish their runtime charts with all their products. Where available, you can view all these runtime charts on our website, so you can see what the product will do and see if it fits your requirements. Some lights have constant circuits in them, which after thermal step down will maintain a constant output until they run out of power. This features on such models as the HM70R and HM65RT. Back to that runtime test. How this is measured if you take a torch with a fully charged battery, set it onto a mode and just leave it, without changing any of the modes or anything at all. If in reality you are flipping through the levels, you'll get very different results, especially if you're going to those higher levels after the unit has cooled down. In short, methods of achieving ANSI runtime figures vary widely between the initial 30-second test period and at last 10%. If you have strict requirements for your lights, it's best to do your homework and check how these runtimes were achieved. This is why it's extremely useful that Fenix will publish their runtime graphs. If you have any questions about runtimes, specifically for your job or application, just get in touch with us or your local Fenix rep and we are happy to help. Okay, back to the main tests. Next we're looking at water and dust ingress. This is listed as IP, then followed by 2 digits. Let's use IP68 for example. In the first instance, 6 represents dust and debris ingress, 1 being poor and 6 being totally sealed. If you see an X in the IP rating instead of a number, for example IPX6, it just means it wasn't tested in dust and ingress protection. The second digit in IP68, the 8 in this case, is waterproofing. This works up from 1 through to 9, but with most cases 8 is the highest protection offered. 4, for example, is splash proof in all directions. 6 denotes protection from strong water jets. 8 though is probably the best rating for extreme conditions, with it being able to be submerged. For most Fenix lights, that means it's 2 meter waterproof for 30 minutes. They can probably go deeper and go for much longer than 30 minutes, but that is just the testing for IP68. We would always recommend a high level of waterproof if you're going anywhere near water. For example, in a cave, on water itself, or if you're in a place where it's going to rain heavily, make sure you're well protected. The final test is impact resistance. This is where a product is dropped from a set height, usually 1 to 2 meters. This is repeated for a total of 6 times. After this, the product, after some simple reassembly, must be in working order. This doesn't mean you shouldn't be careful of your product, but it does mean should the worst happen, your light will have a fighting chance of working. Any excessive or intentional damage could void your warranty, so do take care of your lights. So that is ANSI testing in a nutshell. You could go deeper into this, but I just wanted to give you a quick, brief overview of the whole thing. Looking at these tests, it will just give you some consistency when you're looking at different lighting brands. Not all manufacturers will test the ANSI, but you should know that all reputable ones will. Even with this testing though, it's always better to do your research and see what other users say before you buy. As I said, Fenix do publish all their runtime graphs to try to be as transparent as possible. These are available on the Fenix Light website, as well as our own at myfenix.co.uk. So thanks for watching our first explainer video. If you'd like to see more of these, like the video and drop us a comment as well. Then also make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out next time. If there's anything you'd like us to explain, just drop us a comment and let us know. Thanks again for watching and we'll see you on the next explainer video.